Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the No Fudd Zone. This is just a little chitty chat where I'm joined by some of our regular chat members. If you want to be on the panel, just let me know any given Saturday and I'll let you in here. You can have a say, discuss the topics or bring topics of your own. Tonight we're joined by our usuals, Johnny Mandrick, Scorch, and Welper. So say hello everybody.
Hello.
We're going to start off here with some questions we got in from the viewers real quick, and then we'll move to topics from the panel. Jumpy Killer Ox says, and I know it's not what that says, but that's the way I've always read it. Did you see the hearsay of some publicly known American and Italian tycoons going to Bosnia to pew civilians? Well, I heard a little about it. I hope it's not true, but it's not just hearsay, I guess. It's like there's an actual active investigation.
Yes, and from what I understand, that was back in 1999 when all that turmoil was occurring in that region of the world.
Yeah.
Slobodan Milosevic.
It would be depressing if it's true, but it's not surprising if it's true.
Yeah, life is cheap over there.
Yeah, well, not just over there, but to people who are like billionaires, ordinary everyday people's life is cheap to them. So it's not just the bad guys, because this wouldn't have been a case of, people in a bad situation doing bad things. This is a case of rich people going over and taking advantage of people in bad situations.
Now, do we know if these were ethnic Albanians that were targeted, like the people that Milosevic was wanting to exterminate?
It seems like that's the case, but like I said, don't have any solid info yet. And like I said, saddening, but not what I would call actually surprising.
Yeah. And that would have taken place during the time period when Bill Clinton wanted a distraction from the Lewinsky heat. So he went and bombed that region of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more going on than just Bill. I'm not saying that's 100% wrong, but when the Soviets, when they stopped having the Soviets to hate, they went after each other.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not, Clinton didn't just go bomb them. There was enough stuff going on over there.
The timing of that, though, is very convenient.
That's politics. There's always something to look to. I mean, right now, look at what Trump's doing. Like, oh, the Epstein files might be coming out. Oh, I'm directing the DOJ to go prosecute these people, knowing that just the president saying they're directing the DOJ to prosecute people is wholly unconstitutional and illegal. They're hoping that will become the top story, that he's doing something, illegal with the DOJ instead of the Epstein files being the top story.
And if not, he's got Venezuela queued up.
Yeah, it's going to invade Venezuela. Yeah.
Well, Bill Clinton has a long way to fall too, with all this Epstein file stuff.
And I won't care one bit if he does.
No one's defending Clinton.
Yeah.
Right. But
it's kind of
act like this is something new.
It's whataboutism, and Bill Clinton I'm pretty sure he's a fucking scumbag. But it's irrelevant to the scumbags we're dealing with right now. So when someone says something about what a current event is, and then they say, well, but what about Bill Clinton? I think people will get tired of that a little bit, but it's the main attack of politicians these days.
Well, this is my belief is that nothing will come of the Epstein files until after Trump is out of office, in which case he will be a former president, just like Bill Clinton. So then it becomes a question of, all right, well, how many ex-presidents do you want to take down in this whole thing?
Mm-hmm. I think they'll stall long enough to destroy evidence and alter evidence and everything else to where what the people see will be such a cloud of misinformation and contradictory stuff, because everything that gets released, they'll just release something fake that contradicts it and then let everyone make up your own minds. What were you saying, John Mandrick?
No, it's just, it'll be interesting if what you said is true, it really happens, or if somebody's got stuff squirreled away, if this is what actually gets Trump taken out.
Yeah, I don't think it will, because here's the thing. He can't go down alone.
Oh, no, there's a lot. I mean, something I would not have expected what happened over with the royal family in England to happen if there wasn't something still there that was going to be a mess.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest indicators that it's not a hoax, because the King of England doesn't strip his brother of his royal titles and kick him out of the palace, all this stuff over a Democratic hoax.
Well, here's something I'm wondering with all this Epstein files. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that Donald Trump was aware of things going on that were illegal. Did he actually have an obligation to say anything?
Once he was president, I would think he would.
Well, I mean,
and
legally,
since he was associating with them after he became president, if he knew they were pedophiles, that's not a good look. And people say, like Donald Trump is a pedophile, because if he wasn't a pedophile, why wouldn't he release the information? Because, I think all of us can agree, if I had a video in my possession and people were saying, it's a video of you being a pedophile, if it wasn't, I'd release it immediately and say, no, it's not, it's this. Only way you would hide it is if they were right. So, but I'm not 100% convinced that Trump himself is a pedophile. I just think he was okay with them being pedophiles.
And maybe he didn't want to rock the boat because he wanted more invitations back to the island or something.
Why else would he go to the island, though?
Yeah.
Right? He's ended up to everything. And even if he wasn't, to your point, the question is, I'm walking down the street and I see a crime occurring. Bank being robbed, someone being shot, pick the crime. Do I have any legal obligation to report it?
It depends on the jurisdiction, because I have heard of cases where it's called failure to report a crime, and that just depends on the circumstance and the jurisdiction.
What I'm most interested in about the Epstein files is finding out which political leaders had a role in gathering all this information, and which political leaders have this information, and which political leaders have been using this information, like Putin and Netanyahu, etc. Because how much of the leverage they have with our government right now is because of this information. That's
I'm kind of surprised that Prince Andrew isn't singing like a canary now that he's been busted.
Well, he doesn't want to go to prison. He's not a prince anymore, but he still doesn't want to go to prison.
Yeah, and again, you got to remember the English system, even though it's parliamentary and this or that, if you look at the powers that the monarch still has, anything comes out, his brother has the ability to, I don't think he can behead him anymore, but I think he can come as close as you can in this day and age.
Yeah, it's not, it makes no sense, but yeah, they still can do a lot of stuff. Moving on here, Edgar Cortez says, what does the No FUD panel think? I like to call us the jerk circle. Think about the rift between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump. For once, I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, she's still part of the right that I think it was almost inevitable.
Yeah, and to me, it's kind of like with what's his name, the Speaker of the House. People are like, oh, he's doing a real about face on stuff. It's not because he's suddenly gotten a conscience. It's because they're like, oh, fuck. Got to try to get on the right side of this. And with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I would like to give her credit to think that it's really because she wants to support the women, but she didn't support the women when it was Brett Kavanaugh or when it was anybody else.
Well, the Brett Kavanaugh thing was over the top. Some woman said he was part of 10 gang rapes.
Yeah. So, but listen to every woman. She didn't say that back then, but, and I haven't seen her really stand up for the women in any other circumstances. So to me, it seems like maybe the people they thought were died and true Trump supporters got information that other people didn't have. And she was like, yeah, there's no way this is staying under wraps. So I'm going to be on the right side of this, because I do agree with her. I just don't know if I trust her motivation.
Yeah, I will say this. Anybody in DC or in the government that's a Trump supporter as soon as the tide starts turning the other way and they're pretty sure it's not going to come back, watch them jump ship.
Yeah.
And I think she's looked at this and the Epstein files and all that and goes, Man, there ain't no arguing. If I keep pushing this, I am not going to get reelected. It is time to bail.
Yeah, and this whole thing about suspending the SNAP benefits also hurt the Republicans a great deal.
Oh, then something came out today where they're talking like you will everyone will have to reapply for their SNAP benefits.
Well, that's going to be a headache.
Yeah, well,
they
after
don't have the manpower for that.
No, well, they don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, at this point,
that will starve. Yeah.
I mean, what are they going to do? Unless they're going to say, like, okay, here's an applicant from John Doe at blah, 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 and they were already approved, so I'm rubber stamping it. Unless they do that, they'll have no chance of validating and approving.
No,
well, where we see a parallel? Yeah.
No, I think it has more to do with Trump in his head and people on his, maybe some on his administration think that all poor people are Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. All of this is about, and you've already seen it where they have specifically targeted Democratic areas to cut benefits, to do different things.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And one of the more mean-spirited things.
A lot of fucking Republicans.
Oh, no. Yeah. That's
poor rural people are the huge users of these type of benefits. And those people tend to vote Republican.
Yeah, and have you noticed the mean-spirited videos where they'll show an obese person and they'll say, "Oh, they need to starve for 3 months."
That was one of the things they just did was in when reviewing applications. Are they healthy? Are they overweight? If they're not, then we aren't letting you in the country.
See, that's not fair when it comes to food benefits and food stamps and stuff, though, when you're judging people on their weight, because, I'm not a big fan of people being giant fatties either. I'm like, get yourself and, have respect for your body, stay healthy, stop costing taxpayers and insurance, payers money. But when you're on SNAP benefits and you're trying to stretch a tiny little bit of money as far as possible, that can lead to obesity. Because one, you're depressed, you don't do other activities because you're poor, you can't afford to go do other activities. And two, the cheaper foods are the ones that are worse for you.
Oh, yeah.
Like you can buy shitty food for your kids and it's cheaper and you can actually feed them, shitty food every day, or you can feed them healthy food 20 days out of the month.
Yeah. Look at ramen noodles and cookies. Dirt cheap, extremely fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I literally lived on ramen noodles and bologna sandwiches when I was in college. I'd go buy a big roll of bologna, a case of ramen noodles, and a case of moon pies. Wow. And then I'd buy bread. And that's what I lived on. It's what I ate every day: fried bologna, moon pies, and ramen noodles for like 2 years. So it's cheap. As poor as I was, I could afford to get that. And it ain't good for you. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was active, and I was in the military also, and all this other stuff, going through ROTC, etc., I would have probably gained a ton. Plus, I'm not genetically predisposed to being super heavy, but if I had been, I'd have been as fat as a hog by the time I got out of college.
Yeah, and conventionally rice was cheap, but rice isn't as affordable as it used to be. So all the people trying to save money find rice.
Yeah, not good rice. Good, like the rices that are better for you, they're more expensive now because you got to go. They're fancy. You got to get the cheap.
The other thing too is Americans, we are much more likely to buy rice that we just boil in a bag as opposed to cook properly.
Mm-hmm.
But no, anything. I mean, I remember chicken used to be the cheap food.
Yeah.
Chicken was cheap. Lunch meat was cheap. You ate sandwiches because lunch meat was cheap. Yeah, no, none of that's true anymore.
I got another question coming in here. It says, thoughts on Megyn Kelly on Fox News trying to rebrand Epstein as not so bad a guy. Second, Pat Oswald said in response that she should be put in a wood chipper. He was suspended. I don't know what he said it on, maybe Twitter or something, Twatter.
Yeah, well, if that's her take, then I'm sure she would have no problem sending her daughter to that and letting her 16-year-old daughter work there.
Now, I'm not familiar with what she actually said because, surprise, I don't watch Megyn Kelly. But from what I've gathered from, things I saw, like kind of out of the corner of my eye on the news feed, what she said was being attracted to like 17-year-old girls is not pedophilia. And if
not in a technical
said, well, then she's absolutely right. That's not pedophilia.
I stand by my original statement. Let her, all right, then it's all right for some 30, 40, 50-year-old guy to start dating her 16-year-old daughter.
Right.
Yeah, what Megyn Kelly said, she said that he was attracted to the barely legal type.
Mm-hmm.
Well, barely legal would mean legal, right? 18 and older?
Yeah, that would mean legal, but apparently they weren't all legal. And here's the thing, even if every one of these girls was 18, if they were sending out recruiters, recruiting them, getting them into the house and, stripping away their ability to communicate with other people, to ever leave, making it hard for them, like, we've got dirt on you and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
Well, that's still fucking a crime and a terrible one. It's still human trafficking.
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell is every bit as despicable as Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes.
For facilitating.
Yep.
And what's interesting to me is all of the screaming and yelling and all of it about, we can't let, we need to control the bathrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I ever caught some guy with my daughter, they don't seem to care about this. So I guess as long as you're not, wearing a dress when you, I mean, it's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's all I mean, it's what they want to keep people enraged about right now. So it's like the whole thing with the what's his name? Charlie Kirk that got assassinated. And then every Republican was Charlie Kirk's best friend, and they want to put flags at half-staff and they want to do national memorials. It wasn't because any of them gave two shits about Charlie Kirk. Most of them hated his fucking guts, and it's very apparent from things they've said in the past and things they've said in private and emails, etc. But they knew it was a contentious topic that would piss off the left, and it would keep people divided. I saw people who had never fucking even watched Charlie Kirk or mentioned his name before, acted like he was suddenly the most important thing, Never Enough Ammo actually tried to make the insane claim that he was as important as Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
That was such a ridiculous claim. Oh, yeah, everybody knew who he was. No, they didn't. I didn't fucking know who he was, and I live on the fucking internet. He was an obscure, billionaire-backed guy who wouldn't have been anybody or done anything if he hadn't been backed by this one billionaire that he met at the National Republican Convention. And Martin Luther King was known across the world by everybody. Yeah. This guy was not known across the world. My kids didn't know who he was.
No.
So wow. It made people do ridiculous stuff, but it was all about, it was just basically drawing a line and creating sides. So people had to fall on one side or the other about Charlie Kirk. And they made it to where if you didn't mention it, that was just as bad as saying something bad, because they wanted to make that line and divide people.
Well, all I ever say to those guys, listen, if that's what you want, great. Then none of the females, right? You're not voting then in support of his position that women shouldn't vote.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a whole long list of things he pushed.
Well, I love the people who are like, well, that's not what I voted for. I voted for this. It's like when they abduct one of their family members who is a legal citizen, and they hold them in a concentration camp for 3 months and then deport them to El Salvador. And they're like, this is not what I voted for. It is exactly what you voted for.
Well, I'll tell you what, here in Miami, we had a few of these individuals. They were all pro-Trump until their family members started getting deported.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I can understand it. If you came to this country, if you immigrated or your family immigrated legally and jumped through all the hoops and did all this stuff, I can understand you being like, I am not for these people just walking across and getting what I got. Mm-hmm. Where I'm having issues with is they aren't just going after people who are here illegally. Mm-hmm. They aren't, they're basically saying, well, if you're here illegally, you're a criminal. So no matter whether you've, jaywalked or whatever, you're a criminal and we're getting you.
But that's how we would be treated in a foreign country. Okay, Americans can be deported for less than that.
I don't know about that. We're treated pretty well in most foreign countries because we got the American dollar. But
the other part about that is no government wants to have the hoopla, because once it gets out, I'm being held, right? Russia pulled it off, sure, right? But most
because they're not counting on tourism or anything like that.
Yeah, you're going to get charged, and you're going to quietly get kicked out of the country.
Okay, my point is, you have to be in any country legally. Any country.
Yeah.
So therefore, if you get deported, I mean, what's the difference between an American getting deported from a foreign country?
But here's the difference: they're not just deporting people who are here illegally; they're deporting people who are following the system.
You're saying who are non-citizens?
There was literally just somebody who was went through the whole process, took his oath, been here for 5 years after taking his oath. They're digging up he had a crime 20 years ago. We're deporting you.
Well, it's not even that bothers me. What bothers me, and like I will go on record once again of saying that any person who's here illegally, if they are here illegally, now, of course, I wish they'd go after cartels and criminals first. That should be their first priority, and it isn't. I don't care what Never Enough Ammo says. It isn't. If that was their first priority and they were going after gangs, etc., I'd be happier. But still, even if you're somebody's sweet little grandmother and you snuck across the border and you're not here legally, I'm okay with them saying you have to go through the proper processes. And if you can't go through the proper processes, you're being deported. Anybody who's here illegally, deport them. And I can't really scream about it too much. But
and I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
But why I'm upset is because American citizens are being held and deported. Due process has been suspended, and they're saying, oh, well, we can suspend due process because they're not Americans. Well, how do you fucking know that if you're not giving them due process? Also, I've seen several instances now of them targeting people for political reasons. Like this guy made a post on the internet, and now he's found himself in captivity, even though he's got a valid work permit. You know, shit like that. And I've seen things like, oh, that little fucker, young Republican guy who reported all the people working at a car wash who had valid work permits, but they all got arrested and harassed, and now they got to fight in court, etc. So I've seen people use it as a weapon, and we're even seeing people like, I'm going to call ICE. So I'm like, it's just brought out the worst in everybody, and the abuses of the system make it to where I can't support what's going on.
Yeah, and I agree. If they're here illegally, straight up illegally, yes. I don't care if they've committed a crime or not, right? You came across illegally, if you followed the rules that were there when you came across and you're going through that, all right, you got me. But anybody else, if you're here illegally, yes, I have no problem with them getting deported.
Yeah,
right?
If you're showing up
for your immigration
hearing, if you're showing up for your immigration hearing and that's where they're grabbing you, that I don't approve of.
Yeah, and we are a nation of laws, and there's due process, and they don't care, right? I mean, there are multiple. We're not talking a few. There are more people than P320s that have allegedly gone off on their own that are U.S. citizens. Prove on the spot they were U.S. citizens. That you threw a battery at me, and they're locked up for 3 weeks before they get kicked out. Before
their family didn't know where they're at often,
right? I mean, that's the part I have a problem with ICE is, and when you've got, ICE Barbie going to Congress and saying the president has the constitutional authority to suspend habeas corpus.
He doesn't.
He doesn't, but she said they're going to tell you he does.
Yeah.
And they're going to do it. And then what are the courts going to do? Because let's face it, this administration's already said they don't care what the courts say.
And plus, the courts are owned by the same people that own the politicians. The same people that are pushing all this stuff are the same people that control the courts. I mean, who's buying Thomas's RVs and who's putting them on luxury yacht vacations and all this other stuff? It's the same people that are pushing Stephen Miller. It's not two different parties. It's two parties under $1 is all it is. Let's see here. Let me check. Which Underwood ammo is the best? Penetrators or defenders, extreme penetrator or extreme defender. I like penetrators myself because that's what I'm going for with those is penetration, and it leaves pretty good wound cavity too. Anybody else have an opinion on Underwood ammo?
I have nothing but sophomoric jokes for both of those names, so no.
They are kind of, yeah. Someone's asking, car arms trigger. They said you used to be a big fan of the car arms trigger with striker fired. Are you still? Yes, it's probably the only gun with a striker fire or striker that I would ever carry because I do like the trigger so much. Because, like he was talking last night, there's an actual wall on a car trigger. It's like pulling a revolver trigger. It stacks as it goes back, hits a wall, and clicks. It's as close to a revolver trigger as I've ever seen on it. It's definitely the best striker fired trigger ever. And that's one of the things he was talking about last night in that thing. And that's some people were like, you said there wasn't a problem with the P320s. Oh, no, I said there was problems with the P320s. The problem is they built an operator's gun. They built a gun that is super fast, light and quick, low drag, high speed. And most people can't handle it because they made a gun, like he said, that had taken away that margin for error. And they're basically putting back a small margin for error, things like, a trigger break and a wall, etc. And the cars had that already, and that's what I really liked about the cars.
And if we want to use that as a transition to talking about that, I appreciate the fact that the guy did research. He had facts. He didn't try to claim that, oh, this is why they went off.
Yeah.
Right. Because, nobody, he didn't look at the actual guns that went off and go, aha, that was enough that it didn't. But
he said,
I will say this.
Issues where it makes the gun more prone to accidents.
Yes. And the one what I took away from it all was, yes, doing everything he's got there, groovy, makes it a safer gun. It's no longer a P320 because the P320 didn't fill the niche of I want a safer gun. It was I wanted a faster gun. I wanted a quicker trigger. You listen to all these guys who, well, I shoot combat, I need a faster trigger, right? And they were the same people that, well, you can't have a safety on your carry gun because that's one more thing to go wrong. Now all they're saying is these guns should have a safety.
And he made that point last night. He said that one of the main problems is everybody wants a faster gun and a lighter trigger. And at a certain point, that becomes dangerous. And the P320 is that point because it does become dangerous. And that's what I told everybody. I would not recommend anybody carry this gun, period. Now, maybe with these changes, maybe I would be able to. I might send money in to get it done.
It's no longer a 320 then because that's what a 320 was.
They basically said, here's what SIG did. We're going to make the gun reasonable. And I'm fine with that.
I didn't see, and forgive me if I just missed it because I watch these videos while I'm doing 8 other things because I'm half ADHD like we all were. Would safety, does he feel, or did he state whether or not a safety like on the military versions is enough?
Yeah, we had talked about that, and he mentioned it sort of last night when he said, only about 20% or 30%, he said, of the SIG P320s were ever made with a manual safety. So these other 70 or something percent guns need something done to make them safer for the average Joe. So I think that kind of, expresses what he was talking about how if it's got a safety, none of these are a problem. But even then he said the safety would be better if the safety did this instead of just blocking the trigger bar.
I like
more
to control
less prone to failing.
Yeah, when I laugh at these guys that are all big 1911 guys. And it's like, so it's cocked and locked, and then you still complain that it's got a safety. So no, I think that was not what I was expecting out of the guy. I appreciate him coming on. It did feel like he was selling his goods, but that's fine.
Well, yeah, well, that's what he's doing.
I'm a big capitalist in a lot of ways, but he had a reason why his stuff was gonna, if you want to carry your 320, this makes it safer for you. So kudos to him.
And people think that, you don't like it when people make money. I love it when people make money. I wish I made money. I don't like it when people lie, cheat, and steal to make money or do damage to the community or gun rights or whatever to make money. I don't like that. I don't like shills. I don't like liars. I don't like divisive fear mongers. But someone making money in the gun community, I'm all for that. And I wish more people would come on and sell their goods. I always say, if you got something you want to promote, etc., let me know. I'll set time aside for you. Just
it's
people
like
don't usually do it.
Yeah, like the time you invited the BioFire smart gun guy on the program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love doing stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's so few and far between that nowadays there's not a lot of people making their money off selling something innovative or something they're doing. They're making their money by telling you who to hate and who to be angry at, and this person is sponsoring me to be divisive, etc.
Well, I mean, in some ways, I think we've started to reach saturation point.
Oh yeah, well,
right.
Yeah, look at 2013, but luckily people were interested. But now they're not interested.
Yeah. Look at Senator John Fetterman, man. He's bridging the divide.
Yeah, as he gets
to talk about that guy.
You don't like him?
Not at all.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him. I don't dislike him, but I'm not a fan.
When they're trying to figure out our budget that affects the whole country and does all that, and this guy literally gets up and says, "Can we just pass this so I can go home?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably not the best.
Yeah. So,
in what context?
Like that was the exact context.
Well, and then they do just pass it. And then they do just pass it, and what do they find out later? The bill gives away a $1 million payday to all the people that were co-conspirators for January 6th.
Yeah, that's true.
Stuff like that's in it. That's why I don't like this. Let's pass it. You got to pass it to find out what's in it. That's such bullshit.
Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that he is willing to stand up to his party's leadership and say, "Yeah, I don't think that's the way we should do this," and I wish more of them would do that.
Yeah.
But just a lot of it's
I just
a lot of the other things he does, I just don't feel are appropriate or helpful.
Let's pass it and find out what's in it attitude that most politicians have nowadays.
Isn't there something admirable about him reaching across the aisle?
Depends on what his motivation is, I guess.
To get things done and end political gridlock and unfreeze the government.
If that's what his sole goal is, well then yeah, good for him. Right. But like I said, it's just another example though of this. It's better to do something than nothing. And no, it's often better to do nothing than to do the wrong thing. And when you pass legislation that you don't even know what's in it, that's the wrong thing to do.
And to be fair, I mean, I'm not a fan that they passed that. And it will come out more and more was all they got was a promise from one side of the house, right, to say we'll consider some legislation.
Yeah,
that's all they got, and the other side literally came out and said, "I didn't agree to consider anything."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that never comes through.
So when you start when all the Snap news starts, not Snap news, I'm sorry. When all the healthcare news starts coming out this month and next month, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think maybe somebody on the Republican side was smart and said, this is going to turn into a shitstorm. We know what we can do. We can actually, when we find out, oh, wait, that's not what we were told was going to happen. We're going to fix this right now. Mm-hmm. And that way they don't look like they caved to the Democrats. So maybe it'll all work out. And like you said, maybe he was thinking 2 steps ahead and it's like, you know what? We need to do this to get this passed so we can get that fixed. And if that's the case, then shame on me for playing checkers when he's playing chess.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a big fan of his. I don't dislike him. I don't know. He's not my representative, so I don't pay a lot of attention to him. I think if more people spent time paying attention to what their representative actually does instead of being angry about what other people's representatives do, then we would have a lot different people in Congress right now, because people would be like, wait a minute, my guy actually did this fucking shit? No, get him the fuck out of there. But instead they're distracted by, oh, look at this, what this guy in New York wants to do, or this guy in Texas wants to do. Pay attention to your own house, and then maybe everything else will be better.
Yeah, and the latest focus is the new mayor of Seattle, Katie Wilson, and what she's doing.
Did she win?
She did.
Yeah.
I'm actually excited about that.
Yeah, we'll see what something different does. We'll see, because the Democrats definitely aren't.
Well, one of the things that Katie Wilson's doing that's created a hubbub is she said that she's going to prevent supermarkets from closing. And I don't know how well that's going to go over.
I don't know how you're going to prevent supermarket. That's private industry, but yes, I'm not sure.
But here's the thing: I think there's some legal loopholes that allow them to do some things. And the example I'll use is normally when one of them closes, they have the building, right? They own the building or the lease, so whatever the lease, it's worded later that it cannot be sold to somebody who's going to either sell groceries or a pharmacy out of that location.
Well, and nowadays we're running into a lot of problems where you're seeing things close because, let's say you've got 3 different companies that have grocery stores across the city. Well, they all get bought out by the same hedge fund or company that runs all of them. And they're like, well, we don't need 3 locations. Let's close the one in the poor area because it doesn't make money. And we'll just keep these 2 open, and we'll make sure nothing opens over there that competes with us.
Right. And that's literally what's happened in the Seattle, call it that Pacific North, Seattle area. Because it's not just Seattle.
Yeah.
And I just find it amazing in this capitalistic society that, let's see, why are you so afraid of somebody else going in there when you couldn't make it work?
Yeah.
Right? If you're, I'm a good businessman and I couldn't make it work, you should be happy that your competitor is trying to do it.
Yeah.
No, because you spent all this money undercutting everybody else, basically taking over the area, and now you're trying to cut supply so you can go. I'm sorry I cut you off. I didn't mean to.
Oh, what I was going to say is, isn't one of the issues there in Seattle the fact that closing these supermarkets would create a food desert? And that's what Katie Wilson's fighting against.
It does. There are areas of Seattle in particular, because Seattle's, if you haven't been there, it's a difficult city to describe as far as where there's pockets of things and there aren't.
It's kind of like how I always said about in Portland when I first moved here. What really got me in Portland is you would walk down a street and it's like $1 million home, shack with cars in the driveway, $200,000 home, $1 million home, $200,000 home. It wasn't like everybody was centered in, usually like where I'm from, it's all the nice houses are in this area and all the rundown houses are in that area. It's not like that here in this little River Valley area. Everybody's intermingled.
And you don't have like a lot of the back east. You still have like corner stores and things. Those were all run out, right? Seattle, particularly, the property values, the rents that people were charging for businesses, some of the business taxing that they've done that wasn't done in a smart way. So you do have areas that it's, a mile, 2 miles plus for you to actually go get a grocery, but you're also talking a more city-like where a lot of people don't own cars. You rely on public transportation. So if you can imagine,
public transportation is not easy.
Having to try that.
Well, it's also it's also the idea that if you've got 3 stores and one of them's in a really poor neighborhood, well, in that neighborhood, to even keep the doors open, you can't charge premium prices. So your store, like say that's 5-10 miles over, that is in a better neighborhood, well, you can charge higher prices. So these people that are on like SNAP, etc., you don't want a store near them that's cheaper. You want them to have to travel to the store that's more expensive, so you get more of that government money. So that contributes to the food desert problem, because not only can they not afford to shop at the more expensive store where they end up with less groceries for their money, but then they also have the problem of, you and I don't think anything of, if I got to drive 20 miles to the store and back, it's not a big deal. If they got to go 5 miles to the store, it's an enormous deal to them. So then they end up shopping at like Quickie Marts and stuff half the time.
Yeah, Dollar Tree. Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing that happened, and they're doing a decent job of keeping it quiet, even though it came out at the beginning, was a lot of these stores cut deals. These companies cut deals, hey, I want a break and I'll, on this store, and I want the zoning change so I can build a store there. And in return, I'll put a store in the poorer neighborhood. So there was a lot of that none of the politicians want to admit they did.
Well, they did a lot of that. It's the same thing with real estate over here. It's the same thing with real estate. Politicians made a lot of deals with developers that were technically illegal, and now we got houses sliding off of hills, and people are like, why are these houses sliding off? And then you say, well, if they were built on ground that can't support houses, well, why ain't that illegal? Like, well, it was until they started giving out variances to well-connected developers.
Now, here's what I want to know. Let's say that the supermarket ownership decides they're going to close. Can Katie Wilson still keep the supply coming to the building itself?
They could do incentives, like they could pass things like, hey, you can't do non-competes in these businesses or these areas. Need overrides your ability to do a non-compete. And they can do incentives like, hey, no taxes for the first 2 years for, someone who no city taxes for the first 2 years. If you open a food place here, there's things they can do, but can they say you can't close? I don't think they can do that.
See, these businesses, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead first.
I was going to say, these businesses are saying, whether this is true or not, that the main reason they're closing is because of excessive shoplifting. I don't know how much truth there is in that.
I don't see any.
They brought that up, and a lot of people around here, oh yeah, that, and then they brought up all the cities brought up all the statistics, which show it was actually down in one store that they claimed was so bad. It was down 75%, and it was actually less shoplifting there than in the better neighborhoods. And they tracked it both on police calls as well as, the shoplifting things. So there were a few of them where it's not good, but tell me that's not what you would expect, right? I mean, and what Linky said, all of that, they get to write off. They act like it's lost and it's raising prices for everybody. No, they get to write that off.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of these, they're like, oh, they broke into the Hermes store or whatever and stole handbags, and no one stopped them. Well, it's because a lot of times in these higher end stores, especially, I have a friend who works in they manage one of the big high end stores, Louis Vuitton, down in downtown Portland. And they're like, our corporate office, if we get robbed, they throw a party because, we have to bring in so many bags per store. I'm trying to sell a $5,000 bag, trying to sell 10 of them. I only managed to sell 2. If the other 8 get stolen, that's great because they made enough profit off the 2 to cover purchase on all 10 and still make a profit. But now they get the money back from the 8 we couldn't sell because they got stolen.
Yeah, and almost all of these places now have if you work in any kind of store and it's being robbed, your company policy is to cooperate and let them rob you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but then they use that.
What Yankee just said, because that kind of sounds like some sort of fraud.
Well, I think the problem is when they use the shoplifting as an excuse to close down when they really don't need to.
Well, yeah, but they're going to use anything whatever's better for them business-wise, consolidation, merging, etc. They're going to do whatever excuse they can use to do it. And right now, public perception, because I don't know why, but I have my suspicions. Everybody's being taught to think that you're in a dangerous time and a dangerous country, and all this stuff is happening. Crime is skyrocketing, theft is skyrocketing, when none of it's true. Absolutely none of it, but it's part of that maintain fear, maintain control. So if that's the environment and you're a big business and say you want to close some stores to consolidate in richer neighborhoods and be able to force people to travel more and pay more, you're going to use whatever thing that people believe, whatever thing they've been taught to be afraid of. So
yeah, and the other thing to remember with this too is most of your grocery stores are a union. So they just had the union thing. They just had to pay out and do all that. And then this is an excuse for them to claw some of that back by closing stores and saying, oh, we're giving them, we're giving them options to move to other stores. which just turns into the same problem that the store they want to transfer you to is 40 miles away from your home.
Yeah. Or, it's one of the stores that hasn't gone union yet.
So,
Starbucks is really bad about that. Starbucks is bad about closing a store and transferring everybody to non-union stores if a store tries to unionize.
Which to me is stupid. I remember companies I worked for, I wanted to bring 1 or 2 people out here when I moved out here from Ohio, and they were looking to, and I knew these guys, they were in the union because they had to be. But the whole mentality was, nope, we don't want anybody who's been in a union coming out here, because the first thing they'll do is get these guys to think they need to be in a union. So why would you send union organizers to other stores?
Yep. Well, they've been firing anybody that, I just saw a thing the other day, a guy in Seattle got fired simply because under his shirt, he had on his regular work shirt and a shirt over it. And one of his fellow employees saw in the back when he was putting his apron on and stuff that he had one of the unionized shirts on under his shirt. Nobody could see it, but he put his work shirt on top of it and then his apron on top of it. They called corporate. They sent somebody that day to fire him.
Oh boy.
So.
Wow, it sounds to me like they could fire everybody who works for Starbucks right now because they're all trying to unionize.
They're trying, and they're firing them. They're firing a lot of them. They're closing stores because
it's like any company will do. They will find a way that you violated something so that they can fire you and pretty much bet on the fact that you aren't going to try to take them to court.
Yeah, and they'll just close the store and they'll say, well, we have to close this store for financial reasons. And the financial reasons aren't that store is losing money. The financial reasons is if this store goes corporate or goes union and that spreads, that will cost us money in the long run. Yeah. They are notoriously, people always talked about, Starbucks, the bastions of liberal value. They're fucking corporatists, just like all the billionaires and stuff. Did you get the email about the 6'5" by 25? Not that I know of.
6'5"
by 25. Did you see that video, Yankee?
Huh?
Did you see that video today? From
No.
Forgotten Weapons on that? It's a 9mm, basically a 9mm bottlenecked round with like a tiny little pellet in it that will penetrate APC armor. It was ridiculous.
Well, a lot of times when you do a tiny little projectile and you send them at high velocities, they will have great penetration. It's just how stable are they at distance and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't seen that. So
I haven't watched it yet, but I'll move it up on my list.
Yeah, I'll add it to mine.
I do like that guy.
Who was it? Forgotten Weapons?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sometimes watch their stuff, but I'm not that interested in older stuff, so I don't watch them all the time, but I'll look that one up. All right. Has anybody else got any topics they want to talk about? We are running short on time here.
I had a quick question, if I can sneak it in. The tit sauce you have, is that the PX9 by any chance?
The tit sauce I have is the Regent.
Okay.
So it's what's it called? The Regent something.
Yeah, they've got a PX9.
The Regent BR9.
Okay. Because apparently there's this PX9 that's called a Gen 3 Duty, that is supposedly just as good as the CZ P10, but at half the cost.
What's it called?
PX9.
Okay. I've looked it up before. It's on my thing. So let's see. Oh yeah, I've seen those. I don't know if I trust tit sauce. Whenever I tell people, whenever they ask me about it, when they say, would you recommend tit sauce? I'm like, absolutely not, because of my own experience with the gun. And granted, I've only owned one, but it's probably the worst gun I ever bought. I had to replace every piece in that gun. It's a stainless steel Browning high power. And the only reason I bought it is because it is a stainless steel Browning high power. But the only thing left in that gun that was made by them are the sights, the slide, and the frame. I replaced every internal part, the triggers, everything. And the only reason I didn't replace the sights is because they're proprietary and I can't find replacements for them. So you have to send it out and get it drilled for regular sights or leave the ones that are on there, which I don't like. But literally had to change everything. Hammer, trigger, everything, safety, blah, 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 just to get it to where it would reliably fire.
Anybody else have any experience with them? Because they're trying to sell them as the new Canic, right? And I remember when Canic came out, I was kind of skeptical and stuff. Well, a couple people I know have them. I've shot a few. Canics are not a bad option at all.
Nowadays they're not a real cheap option either.
Not as cheap as they were, but they're still compared to some of the other companies. And I think a lot of that is because they kind of got in the market, but now they're trying to sell upper end models.
Mm-hmm. Well, when Canic first came out, I remember I was at SHOT Show when they first came to SHOT Show, and I took videos where I pulled the slide off one. I'm like, look at this horrible machining. Look at the center raised piece, and it's not even. You can look down it and you can see where it wavers. And you can put the slide on and slide it, and you can feel where it rubs different in different places. I mean, it was just really cheaply made. But by the time they'd been there 3 or 4 times, the guns were so much better. And now they are better, and they cost more too, usually. But
do you feel cheaply or poorly? Because those are two different things to me.
It was both. It was poorly, cheaply made. Now, looking at some of these, though, for like $365 MSRP, I mean, how could you go wrong trying one?
Yeah.
I mean, even if you had to turn around resell for $200, I mean, how much did you actually lose? Because I don't know what these sell for actually in the market, but I'm looking at this PX9D, which looks like it'd be like what I bought. It's got a nice flat trigger. It's got a little decorative piece because it's got the red dongle. It looks like a nice gun. It's got a nice looking grip. And some of the stuff they've made, their clones are supposedly really good and people like them. But like I say, I've only had experience with one, and that experience was so bad that I can't recommend them. But there's no shortage of recommendations on the internet, though. I'll say that.
Does anyone else think that every gun should come with a flat trigger option?
I like flat triggers, but a lot of people don't even like them.
To me, those have to be people that have not shot them.
Yeah, because
I'm sorry, I talked over you. I didn't mean to.
I just love the fact that I can run my finger right along that bottom portion of the trigger guard and catch that bottom trigger and have the most leverage possible on the trigger.
I think if you had the flat trigger option, that the manufacturer would use that as an excuse to way overcharge.
Yeah, man. Well, there's got one on this, and it's $365. So,
and to me, I think the flat trigger's got to be cheaper to make.
You would think, but I don't know, but I would think so.
There's less there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's less, you're not, I mean, I guess some of the other triggers are probably more formed than they are machined, but.
Yeah. I just got a stainless steel trigger for my Shadow 2 carry, and I really wanted a flat one, but all the flat ones were for single action only. There was one combat trigger you could get that was sort of flat, but it was milled weird on the front. So I didn't get it, but I wish there'd have been a flat one for the double action, single action. Before we go here tonight, though, I do want to finally read the names of people that have bought merchandise over the last 3 days because I haven't had a chance to do it, and I want to do it right now so that I can send these all through. So let me go over here, and I'm going to read the names of people that have bought merchandise. Now, I'm not going to be able to read what they bought probably. Well, I'll try. We got Giovanni Colon. He got supported the TYMP program. Neil Breathauer. He supported Toy Guns for Tots. Alec Miller. He supported Toy Guns for Tots. And next we got Richard Pranin, also supported Toy Guns for Tots. Felix Plaza supported Pets and Vets and TYMP. James Basham supported Pets and Vets and TYM Triple P. And Arnold, I don't know how to say this last name, Saucedo, supported Toy Guns for, Pets and Vets and TYM Triple P. Keith Hawkins, is that right? Keith Hoskins also supported our TYMP programs. Robert Tremblay actually supported Save the 40s. He got I added him to the list yesterday. David Ortlieb donated and bought an ornament and supported Toy Guns for Tots. And Ben Coors bought a car magnet and an ornament supporting Toy Guns for Tots. So I want to say thanks to all of them for buying merchandise and supporting our various programs. Remember, if you haven't donated yet to Toy Guns for Tots, please go do so. You can go to my website, tympistolproject.com. There's a link in the upper corner of this video. Go over there, donate to Toy Guns for Tots. We are in desperate need, trying to keep up. So go over if you can all afford it and you are inclined to do so. Go help support it. Help a child out there, an in-need child, have a Merry Christmas this year with their toy guns that they'll actually get. Hey,
Yankee, when is the last day for that? Because I'm beginning to feel like a lot of this is just paydays not lining up for people.
November 30th. I'd
like them to know when it is.
November 30th. We always run it through the month of November because I have to go buy it like within the first 5 days of December. And because that's the only way I can get it to the distributor fast enough that they can get, because these things have to be, sent out to different areas and then they have to be wrapped and then they have to be distributed. So people think you can get it right up till, the 20th. No, I made that mistake the first year where we didn't go shopping till like the 10th. And it was so hard to get someone to distribute it. I had to take it to the sheriff's office for the sheriff's thing. But now we're too big for that. So it's got to be done by like the 5th.
Postal service has slowed down too over the last few years.
Yeah. Well, they truck it mostly. They don't mail anything. So they have trucks that go out to different locales. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. We run it through all of November because in December, remember, we always start the Fur Friends Animal Rescue fundraiser, and that's all of December. So that's why I hate November and December so bad, because it's all about raising money. That's why I don't like it. It's like taking sponsorship or something. I don't know. But that looks like that's going to be it for today. Has anybody got anything they want to say before we get out of here?
Nope, I've talked more than enough.
Well, I just wanted to get
all that
one.
VH Spring Solution stuff last night kind of vindicated the stuff that we talked about months ago, right? On what I was telling you?
Not really, because the whole point is the gun doesn't go off unless you pull the trigger. The point
is not what he said. The gun doesn't go off.
He never at any time said the gun ever went off without pulling the trigger. I talked to him about that for that. He never ever said that. He said there's no mechanical room for error.
He specifically said that at the beginning, that he looked at, he did all the testing. He threw it off his roof. He described all the stuff he did.
Did you guys watch his video?
I didn't watch it.
At least the first 15 minutes of it.
But he didn't say that in my chat, or I would have called him on it.
No, he did say that in your chat.
No, he did. He never ever said the gun doesn't.
The seer is in control of that striker.
Yes, but he never ever.
And what activates the seer?
That's what activates the seer is the trigger.
He very clearly never said activates the seer. That's the whole point of him increasing the spring weight.
No, he specifically said he did every drop test. He even then threw it off.
I watched all
But he also said, "Here's the word he said." Wait. Here's the clear thing he said, and I went over with him with him exclusively, and I even denoted it during last night's live chat. He said, "What they're doing is not taking away any issue that actually exists. What they're doing is adding in a margin of error."
Right.
So what they're doing is
the issue still is there. That's the whole
the guns are not going off without the trigger being pulled. It's just there's no margin of error.
Not been proven, Yankee.
That has been proven.
You know what?
You don't have to prove that they're going off without that they're not going off when the trigger's pulled. You have to prove they are going off without the trigger being pulled. And that has not happened.
Yeah, it's I believe it's aliens using telepathy to cause the gun to go off. Prove me wrong.
Exactly. That's not how it works. You have to prove, if you're making an outrageous claim that a gun fires without the trigger being pulled.
It's not an outrageous claim.
Yes,
Yankee.
it is. It's an outrageous claim that would happen. So
okay, what caused it to go off? You're saying that the impact, right? And what moved the sear?
Gravity.
No, gravity's not.
If gravity moved the sear, then every time you pointed the gun down or up, it would go off.
And also, he multiple times made the
not
point.
Earth gravity.
He also
just
multiple
gravity.
times made the point. If you listen to everything he said, that the biggest problem is the triggers too light.
And what you're talking about then isn't gravity; it's momentum.
Yeah,
there's enough momentum going in a direction that when the gun then stops, that part keeps going. And when you do if you do the math on it, I'm almost positive you're going to come up with.
I did the math on it. Yankee has all of it, and he wouldn't show it.
He did not just change the sear spring. He changed the way the trigger pulls. There, he even made a point that now there's a wall. You're going to fill that wall. You're not going to accidentally pull beyond that wall, and that it's heavier and all this other stuff. They didn't just change the sear spring.
They changed. Okay, did you make it to the website? They offer a service.
I don't care about the website. I'm dealing with what he said in my chat and what I responded to and what I dealt with.
Yeah.
And he never once said the gun ever went off without a trigger being pulled. He even said, well, when one of my friends was sitting in a recliner with a gun in his pocket and it went off, things like that shouldn't be happening. Well, right, because there should be a margin for error.
That was my point that I was trying to make when I asked if you guys watched his video. Because he didn't say it on your chat, but he does say it on his video.
Well, if he's wrong, it's never been shown that the gun goes off without the trigger being pulled.
It doesn't matter.
If that was the case, every lawsuit would be settled or done in court.
Yeah, they'd already have someone showing it. They would have shown it. They would have documented it.
How can you say that that's what happened when
I'm not saying that's what happened?
You just did.
No, I did
not just say that the guns are going off because of gravity.
That ain't happening. I
said that's a possibility.
Well, so that's also why he wanted the extra spring rate. The fucking invisible dragons are pulling the trigger when you're not looking, but it's not likely.
That's an absurd claim.
So is yours.
And for $19.99, I can sell you my invisible dragon repeller, which will keep the invisible dragons from firing your firearm.
And why is that a ridiculous claim? Do you not believe in invisible dragons?
How many people believe in invisible dragons, Yankee?
In this chat, how many in this chat believe? I'm saying it isn't impossible.
Why? Well, you can't, if it's invisible, you can't say you don't believe in it because you didn't see it because it's invisible.
So if it's not impossible, then it must be likely. So
I'm just giving you a little bit of grief on it.
Where is invisible dragons possible?
How's it impossible? It's never been proven that they don't exist.
Yeah, dragons are in the Bible.
Yeah. But as we were saying, that's it for tonight. We're out of time, so Welper will have to scream about this on the next chat. I thank everybody for coming. I appreciate it. I will see everybody again tomorrow. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again. And go donate to the Toy Guns for Tots. Don't be cheap. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.